The soul is speaking. We'd like to call to order the Johnson County Council 2025 budget hearings agenda for the second reading of county budgets for next year. Elizabeth, will you do a roll call when you get?
I sure.
When you're resting?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Our secretary is at a prior appointment and will be here as quickly as she can, along with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Ron Pierce.
Here.
John Myers.
Here.
Pam Burton.
Present.
John Mowers.
Here.
John Dittmer.
Here.
Melinda Guzman.
Here. If you would care to join us in prayer, Melinda, I believe, is going to bring the benediction. If you would, please.
Please bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, we come before Thee today humbly, asking for Thy guiding hand. We're grateful to be together. We're grateful to serve our communities. We ask for Thy guiding hand to help lead us and guide us in a manner that is pleasing unto Thee. We ask for truth, we ask for wisdom, and we ask for discernment in all things. Please bless each and every person as they approach the podium, that they might speak with the power that has been given to them. Bless us up here, that we may make the decision that is fair to the departments and to the taxpayers. And we ask for any other blessings we may stand in need of. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move to the agenda, I have a statement. And when I'm finished, I will offer any of the other council members if they have anything that they would like to say prior. But after a lot of thought on first readings and the budget workshops, I just wanted to acknowledge the employee wage increase of 5% and to emphasize the appreciation of that adjustment to the county. And while it is understandable that it may not meet all of your expectations, this council has been committed to managing the taxpayer resources responsibly and making decisions in the best interest of everyone involved. Last year, we were able to make significant strides in some compensations, not all, but some. And we aim to continue that progress within our financial framework. I found some aspects of behavior during the first reading budget process this year to be less than appealing. Some behaviors appeared confrontational. However, the majority did adhere to the guidelines and contributed positively as requested. Our goal has always been to treat everyone impartially, transparently, and with fairness, and we do expect the same in return. While we value open dialogue, it is important that the conversations remain professional and constructive. Please understand that we are working towards short and long-term goals that benefit both the employees and the Johnson County taxpayers. So that was prepared by me, from me, and that's starting this with, I would really hope we keep it respectful and informative. So at this time, before we start, anyone else on the council has anything they would like to say, please do so.
Well, I'd just like to add to that for my 4 years, there's been a lot of, there's been suggestions that we haven't been consistent, And that's certainly what we should try to do, and be consistent and fair and not always equal. And comments that were made about the salary work that we're doing has been over my 4 years. It started before I came on board in 2019. And it is, a challenge to say the least, and a reminder that, we did in last year, I believe it was 8%, which was above the norm throughout the state. And, it is a challenge that we have to always take in consideration, and I'm expecting that the next council hopefully will continue the efforts to have wage and salary adjustments and audits that will deal with a lot of the issues as far as the positions that those might feel are not at the level. And I look forward to watching it on Zoom next year, sometimes in person, and see how you guys do it. But I think, we will have a council, no matter who is elected in the fall, that will continue those efforts to try to bring salaries to a reasonable expectation for our employees and the citizens of Johnson County.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody? Mr. Myers? No? Okay, we'll start this morning, I believe, with County Park. Fund 1157. Good morning.
Good morning. Kevin Leonard, Park Superintendent. I did not have any changes from first read to second read. If you guys had any other additional questions?
Move to approve as approved in first reading.
We need to make sure we list all the funds that we're approving.
We do. Oh.
Yep. Should be down through 1179.
So we're 1157, 1178, and 1179. Is that correct?
Okay, they're having trouble hearing in the back. Is your microphone on, or do we need to be closer?
I didn't say anything terribly relevant, so you didn't miss anything.
How about, you want to redo that, Mr. Dittmers?
Let's start over. How about that? Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you, Melinda, for turning my microphone on. Move to approve, as approved on first reading, Parks Department 1157-0128, 1178, and 1179. Second.
Oh, okay, so we do not need a roll call vote, correct? No, everyone is here. So all in favor, or a motion by Mr. Dittmers to approve 1157, 1178, and 1179 as presented at first reading, and a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. We'll get a system here. Okay, so the next up is soil and water.
Kathy Hayes, Soil and Water. I have no changes from the first reading.
No changes, and you're here just for 10:01, 1:30, correct?
Yes.
Move to approve 10:01, 1:30 soil and water as approved on the first reading.
The first by Mr. Mallers. I'm looking at my John list over here, Mr. Mallers. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Deere. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next up is the Corporative Extension Office. Hi.
Hi, I'm Heather Doherty, County Extension Director and 4-H Educator. I didn't have any changes from the first reading.
Okay. Motion, someone?
Move to approve 10010116 cooperative extension as approved on first reading.
First by Mr. Deere,
Second.
second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Health Department, local public health services, health maintenance, and tobacco settlement.
Betsy Swearingen, Director, Health Department. No changes to any of the four.
I'll move to approve as approved on first reading. I'm sorry, was it resubmitted?
No.
I didn't think so.
Not,
Amy, you may have to remind us if one has been resubmitted.
I will.
Okay,
All right,
thank
so
you.
I make a move to approve as approved on first reading, count 1159 Health Department, 1161 Local Public Health Services, 1168 Health Maintenance, and 1206 Tobacco Settlement.
I have a first by Ms. Grissomer,
Second.
second by Mr. Deere. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
thank
I
you.
have a question.
Uh-huh.
Are COVID shots available?
They are. So if we do not have what they call the 317 vaccine, which is the free vaccine right now, but we do have the vaccine.
I mean, is that the new one?
Yes.
You don't have that?
Well, no, we do have it. We don't have the one that we provide to the underinsured currently.
Okay.
It's on back order, but we do have the other vaccine waiting.
So in
So
other words, we have to pay for it.
insurance will cover, insurance will cover it 100%. So yes, come and see us, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Next up, we have our coroner, Fund 1157.
Morning,
Morning.
Michael Pruitt, Johnson County Coroner.
We talked on the phone, Mike, about the increase, and I may not have the verbiage correct here, so I'm going to do my best here, for your employees that are basically part-time, but they are paid per occurrence, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so we inadvertently approved the 5% to a part-time line item, and that is, the yearly increases are based to full-time employees only. So I realize that this is the only money they make, and I realize that it is a per event occurrence. But, and I think there was an additional raise to it since it was first established. Did we not?
So the more I went back and thought about this, is I picked that 5% as an increase in that line item. It's not an increase to a stipend. All that's doing is allowing us to in turn choose what we as the agency want to pay them per call.
Correct.
So they're really not getting, it's not a 5% raise for the individual as a part-timer. It's a 5% raise to that line item, so that allows us to then pay what we want per call or per autopsy.
Correct.
So to me, I don't see where that's a problem, because it's really hard for me to figure out how much money I'm going to need in that line item based on the call numbers could be up, they could be down.
Right.
Autopsies could be up or down. So the 5% was a number that, based on what I saw we were doing on the full-time side, that seemed like a fair number to apply to that line item, not individuals.
Right. And I think we all understand that it was an error on our part to begin with. We probably should have caught that, the 5% verbiage, and putting it to a part-time as opposed. The only thing that I want, this will have to be voted on again, but the only thing I do want to point out, as we talked about before, none of us can stand responsible for prior when you were coroner. So the council or the establishment, but we know there's been lots of changes in bringing this department forward by leaps and bounds. We appreciate that, and that's awesome. But I will tell you that most, well, I'm not going to say most, all of the other departments that have those rates, regardless of how often they're used, how much they are, so on and so forth, they are never increased, but every 2 to 4 years. This one, I believe, has been requested once since it was established, and now asking for another increase. So I'm not telling you I'm against it. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware what they are actually approving here. So we're approving your increase in an amount for that line item for the runs, for lack of a better word.
It would fund the runs.
Does the amount?
Right,
So
but
it's
we
about-
already
it's
have a
about-
funding, correct? You've established how much is there prior to.
We establish what we're going to pay them per call,
Right,
what we want to, but we
Right.
can't do that without the funding in that line item. And so we're talking about a $5 a run increase, $5, to be on call, things like that. It's
Yeah.
not a substantial amount compared
Yeah,
to
we-
other departments.
$5 or 5 cents, I just want the process to be understood. You're increasing the amount you're currently paying them to do this job, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But we're not applying them to a part-time person. This is going to a line item that we use to pay individuals, whether it be full-time or part-time. If they're going on a call, we don't have any full-time
Right.
people that do that. But to me, we're just applying the 5% to the line item, just like I would to any other category.
Is this is deputy coroner, the 135 a call?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, now is the 135 a call staying 135 and you're just increasing
So
the
that's-
number of calls that are available, or are you increasing the price per call?
It's going to 135 is what we're going to
Oh,
do.
what
From
is it? What was it?
130 to 135.
Okay, so it was 130.
Yeah. If you do the math on 5% over the 130, it comes out to about $5, pretty
Yeah.
close to $5.
And I understand that, but from from our financial point, we've got people who were applying for budget increases in certain area that their bottom line was actually negative. They were giving things up and we have had to turn it down. And I'm not saying I'm against this, I'm just saying we voted on it improperly and the verbiage needs to be correct and we need to reconsider the vote, is if in fact this line item is going to be increased but from the 130 to the 135. Just stating for public transparency, that is not normally a process that is done every year.
Right, I
to those
understand.
type
I
of
understand the verbiage, and if it needs to be changed, it needs to be changed. There's some allowances in that, so.
And I do want to point out, I did point out the amazing leaps forward that we've done, but I also want to point out, I don't know that we've said no to anything in any of your budgets at this point. I think we pretty much have gotten it, trying our best to get it where it needs to be to function properly.
Yeah, and I think if you look at our other line items this year, we pretty much held the line on every
Yeah.
other line item because we have reached that point to where we're in that comfort zone now to where
Right.
we're operating where we need to be
Right.
as a coroner's office in comparison to other counties like
Yeah.
ours.
And like I said, I'm not saying this to tell you that it's a bad thing or a wrong thing to ask. You're like every other elected official. You want to shoot for the mountain and get everything you can for your outstanding employees, and that's great. But I did feel we needed to discuss it a little further because it does have to be voted on again, so.
There is one more correction, and all this, as we've been trying, is I did notice that on my office manager, deputy coroner, or administrative deputy coroner, the 48,000, when you apply 5% to that because she's a full-time employee, it was laying up short, and I don't think that figure 49,350 is correct. It falls short of the 5%, so we probably need to adjust that, and I think it adjusts to 5,400.
Okay. Amy, can you check that and adjust it appropriately for the 5%?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was my fault.
Oh, unfortunately, when we get done, there will still be, it's so hard to catch it all. So,
So I guess if you don't do the 5%, just my question, my mind, what do we do?
exactly. And
so-
that's the discussion we're going to have, or
okay.
hopefully we're going to have up here. I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork as to why we're discussing this.
Yep.
What is normally done in other departments, and how we got here. So with that, I'm going to be quiet and leave it open to,
I just did the math here, that office manager would go up to 50,400.
50,400?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
50,400.
thank you, Melinda.
Okay, and then, so that was that was account number 11348, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then what was the other account that you,
So the other accounts that would be the shift differential, the autopsy additional personnel, and the deputy coroner fund. Those were the areas that we pay our individuals out of, and we set our rate for what we're going to pay them out of that line item.
Okay, so shift differential is 16,900. What's the next one?
Got 6,900, then we got 6,800, and then the 340, or 324, I'm sorry.
Uh, 324, okay,
Yeah,
deputy.
you gotta go
coroner.
up just a little bit.
All right.
So I believe our consideration here, we need to redact the approval of the 5% increase to this line item, 1157-11324. And then the question would be at that point, then, Mike, you would be in turn requesting a $5 per call increase to that 130.
And that's kind of hard to figure out what it's going to be based on, I mean, we have to have enough money in the pot, obviously, to pay the on-call per call.
And that's pretty much standard. I mean, if it doesn't work, you know, you'd have to come back to us if in fact the funds were not,
Right.
yeah, so.
So if we know what 5% equaled out to cash instead of percentages, then we just increase the line
But
item.
that's
to
paid per call, though it's not paid overall to someone.
Right, what I'm saying is we increase the fund by what? Instead, just take that word 5% out and add in the amount of money 5% would have been in that line item, and now we're just.
Yeah,
calling
I
it
understand you're
cash.
going for a move, I understand that, but there's also the option, we remove the 5%, we hold steady at the 130, and then in another year or so, come back to increase the amount that's needed. If you run out through the year, then you'd have to come back with an additional appropriation. So there are other options,
So
so
you're telling me don't increase from the 130 to the 135 for a
I'm
year?
telling you, that's what's on the floor for discussion,
Okay.
so.
That's a question.
Yep.
If I'm reading this right, through 6 months, you spent about $7,000 in that line
In the,
in the in 11,324, 6845.
yeah,
That's what I'm seeing, out of a 21 budget. So you got 15,000, right at 15 left to spend the last 6 months of the year.
14,823.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
that's out of the 24 budget?
That's in the, yeah, I'm looking at the spend
Yeah.
for 24. So that would lead me to believe, if you annualize that, is that seasonal? I mean, you don't have any way of knowing, so it can't be seasonal, I don't think, but you've got 15,000 left out of 21. So we're talking a little bit about, first of all, not a lot of money to your point, and secondly, it's sort of a moot point because the spend's not been keeping up with what's budgeted in the first place.
Our call numbers this year went down, and the reflection of that was less overdose deaths, which is a reflection of the county's effort to reduce overdose deaths by putting Narcan on the street. And so we've looked at that, and that's kind of where that fluctuation has. Now, can it fluctuate back up? Absolutely. So,
Yeah. The point is, though, you're going to come in, it looks like under budget in that line for 24. Is that?
yes.
Okay.
But the under budget is different than going, the increase from 130 to 135 for the call.
Well, the cost of living goes up.
Yeah.
The calls go
I'm
down.
making the point
And,
that,
yeah.
you know, that less calls doesn't equate to what we're paying them per call.
Right. We don't base it on that.
Right. You don't base it on the number of calls, you base it on the work that they're doing.
Correct.
And I have said for my time on the council that, you know, that it's can potentially be one of the most horrific jobs, you know, having to deal with, you know, all of that. And I don't think a $5 increase to those per call is unreasonable.
It takes special people to do this job, as I've stood up here and said before. It's one of the toughest jobs in this county to do. It has far-lasting effects on the individual as they work through this, even though that they like doing this job more than anything on the side especially. So they work very hard for the county to do some of these jobs that no one else, and I mean no one else, wants to do. So I always try to just make sure that we are taking care of them financially. They're not getting rich off this by any means, but rewarding them for that very gruesome, hard work that they do.
I'll come back to the spend. You could have given them that increase had you chosen to do so inside that budget, given your spend rate. Right?
As far as,
You
like,
could've
you
done-
could tell me today that this is my budget, and we still go and pay the 135 because we choose that individual,
Right.
what we're gonna pay.
That's what I'm getting at.
So
And you have the headroom to do it.
we do have that ability to do that.
Okay.
So like, I could go up to 135, stay with what I had, and if I run out of money, then I come back to council and say I'm out of money.
Gotcha.
But then you're gonna tell me, we told you to stay at 130. So it's like,
Well, hopefully we'll remember this conversation, so.
Well, I make a motion to approve the corner budget 1157-0107 with the following, on second reading with the following change. Position 1157-1134A, office manager slash deputy coroner, changing that, correct, and with a correction of 50,400 for that line item. And then also the line item 1157-11324 deputy coroner, keeping that as with the appropriated balance as of 2024. Does that make sense?
So you're keeping it as the original submission of 21,668?
Yes.
So was the adopted budget in the first reading 22,751 or not?
Yes.
So okay.
So you're decreasing
Just
that.
removing the 5%.
Huh?
Removing the 5%, leaving it as status quo is, I believe, what Melinda is saying.
That's what I meant,
Yeah.
if I didn't word it right, but that's what I meant.
Complicated.
And not going to the 135 per call.
That would be
Yeah.
what her motion is, yes.
Well, wait a second. He can do that at his discretion, can't he?
Right, he can.
You guys
Yeah.
have to
Correct,
approve that.
correct.
When you guys approve the is this on? When you guys approve the part-time rates, that's part of that. So like, it's been 125 for a couple of years, for like at least 21, 22, 23. In 24, you guys increased it to 130, and now he's asking for 135. So you guys
So,
have to
and
make
I think
that
that-
decision
That's right, that's
under the
what,
part-time rates later
That's what
on.
we would-
Part-time rates? Under the part-time rates, is that what you're
In
saying?
that section, yes, later on.
So when we go to the part-time rates, we would
You either need to
make the
leave it.
motion to go to 135.
If that's what you choose.
But the budget,
But now you're
21,600.
you're looking at the appropriation amount in that line item.
Right, but the budget amount request 21,668, you would have to take the 135 and make it work within the 21,668.
but you're never gonna know if that works because of the amount of runs. so-
Right, yeah, but I just want to make sure when we vote that we know we're not voting no to the 135 that is in the part-time.
We're not
Okay.
voting no to 135, you can do that. We're just saying, you don't need to pad your budget so much here,
Yeah.
when you already came in under budget.
Are you addressing the other two line items, Melinda?
Am I,
Are you addressing the other two line items that got increased?
16,800 and 16,900, correct?
And just to note for the shift differential, all the other departments, none of them increased their shift differential.
What was that last statement? I didn't hear it.
In other departments that have shift differential, none of them have asked for increases for years. Just FYI.
I mean,
are those shift differentials paid by hour, or are those paid by a set fee? I'd have to have an example of what the shift differential is for some other departments, just see where I'm at.
I mean, you came way in under budget again on that one as well.
Yeah, but we have to keep in mind, so did several other departments come in under budget by decreasing items. So we really need to take it by the line item and discuss the two individuals to keep it consistent with what we've done, I would think. So we're okay with the additional increase for the assistant. And we've discussed leaving, the motion on the floor is to leave the, what was originally submitted by the 21,668. We can address the 135 during part-time rates, and that will be his choice, so which is a moot point. The next thing is under 16800, I believe, Amy, and 16900. Are those the two line items? Okay. The ask is $50 for additional deputies per call when extra personnel is needed on significant types of call, and $20 for a phone consultation. And then $70 per, on the next one, $70 per 12-hour shift. And that one remains the same as 2024, that's not an increase, is that what you're saying?
It increased $5.
It increased the $5 as well? Okay.
So does that go into part-time?
It's in that section when you approve the part-time, the board, the DMs, any special pays, it's all listed there. Any special rates.
All right, so it's the same thing.
Right.
That goes to part-time, but your increase was 3370 to 3370 on line item 1800. Is that correct, Mike?
On the first reading, that's what I have written.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
33.7.
Yes.
And then 49, I can't read my own writing, 49 something, 200 something.
209.
On shift differential pay. So it's the same thing that we addressed the rate at the, we addressed. Oh, God. We addressed the rate at the,
What was that?
yeah. We addressed the rate at the part-time and could leave the adopted budget at the, as requested. Is that correct? Is that what everybody's understanding?
I don't know, I'm thrown by the bear ground where it came from.
Somebody online?
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
All right, so is that correct? Is that what's understood?
I don't know.
All right, let me say it again, 16,800. The requested change at the first reading was to 3370, correct? And the second one was 4920 something.
209.
209 at the first reading. So the part-time rate would be addressed at part-time, so that could be adjusted downward, and then we would come back if it didn't work, Mike, for an additional appropriation in 2025, correct? Okay.
Melinda, I know you have half the motion on the floor,
I know.
but I think we need the other half, and I'm not sure how to word that, so.
I'll just rescind that one and let's just start over. Go ahead, Ron.
No. Well.
Okay, Ron, start with the assistant position, and then move on to the other three, because it's going to be the same motion for those three, correct?
Like you could just say, as originally submitted on first reading, except for increasing 11,348 to 50,400.
What she just said, I make that motion, which is that as approved on the first reading, or is that resubmitted?
As originally submitted on first reading,
Okay, as originally submitted on first reading.
with the exception of increasing line item 11,348 to 50,400.
Yep, that's what I want, that's my motion.
I'll second that. I just want to say it's not, kind of what Ron was talking about, it's not about unreasonable. I don't think anybody submitted anything unreasonable this entire budget session. It's about being consistent. It's about being consistent and being a council that people can rely on, and people will understand that when we make comments about this is what we need it to be, that's kind of what we need it to be. So I will second that.
So we have a first by Mr. Deere, with the help of Amy, and a second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. So we can address your part-time rates at the part-time rate portion,
Okay.
which will allow you to pay what you need, Thank you. And I have to say that moan coming from the public, we've all done it in the last month, so. All right, Mr. Surveyor.
For the record, Greg Cantwell, Johnson County Surveyor. I have 5 before you with no adjustments from first reading.
You go all the way down to 1157-0119.
Correct.
Move to approve surveyor's proposed budget, 1157, actually as approved on first reading, 1157-0106.
Let's talk into the microphone.
1217, not much to say here, except 1217-106, elected officials training, 4905, surveyor certification, and 1202, surveyor, whatever that is.
Corner perpetuation.
Yep, they get it. Greg, you said all of them.
And there's another one.
And 1157, the Drainage Board.
Drainage board's in that.
But first by Mr. Dittmers,
I'll second that.
second by Ms. Myers, all in favor?
Reesmer.
I'm Myers. Streesemer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm known as Mrs. Deer, so.
That's right.
Good morning, Trina McLaughlin, Johnson County Clerk. I
Hi,
have no
Trina.
changes from first reading.
Move to approve, where is it? 1001, 101 clerk, 1217 elected officials training clerk, 1119 clerk perpetuation, and 1001, 114 clerk election board as approved on first reading.
But first by Mr. Mowers.
I'll second it.
We got a second down here by Mr. Myers, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Trina. Next, we have the treasurer. And, hi, you go down to
I have 2.
two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle Ann Graves, Johnson County Treasurer, and I have no changes from first reading.
Move to approve 1157, 103 treasurer, and 1217, 103 elected officials training treasurer.
Have a first. oh,
No, 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 no.
Sorry, sorry.
As
sorry.
approved on first reading.
I forget the extra words.
Second.
First by Mr. Dittmers, or first by Mr. Mallers, a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
This one is going to be a revised budget.
The 1160? Yeah. Okay.
1189.
Huh?
The 11.
Yeah, the 1189 is revised. The 1189 would be revised. The others are the same, correct? So, hi,
Yes, hi,
Teresa.
good morning, Teresa Petro, County Recorder.
We have, you're the next four, and 1189, the Recorder's Perpetuation Fund was revised at first reading. So,
Yes, I resubmitted the 1189 with the 5% increase, retaining all the positions.
Are we skipping 1154?
that's
There's no
hers as
change.
well.
Oh, okay.
No change in the 1154, 1160, or 1217.
Yeah, the
Just
only
11.
revision she had was in 1189.
Okay.
But you have nothing that you're wanting to revise today on second reading as well?
I resubmitted the 1189 with the 5% increase, retaining all of the positions that I have, the 4 deputy recorder positions.
Right, so just for transparency purposes, you were one of the ones that did some negotiating and ended up in a negative and did a wonderful job with your budget. But once it was determined that it would be 5%, you rescinded your request to eliminate a position.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what we would be approving today. for the second reading?
I'll make a motion to approve 1154 enhanced access as approved on first reading. 1160 identification security as approved on first reading. 1217, 104 elected officials training as approved on first reading. And 1189 recorders records. Move to
Recorded
approve.
perpetuation, that's a hard word.
Recorders perpetuation, yeah, okay. Recorders records perpetuation. Move to approve as resubmitted on second reading.
Second?
Have a first by Ms. Grissomer and a second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Teresa. Okay, we have our county assessor coming up for the next, I think, 3 funds. That would be 1001, 109, 1131, and 1224.
1224 is resubmitted.
1224 is resubmitted.
Morning, Mike Watkins, County Assessor. As Amy just stated, I have revised 2 lines in the reassessment budget. I wanted to spend a little less money next year than I had originally projected. So I cut $27,090 out by reducing the FICA and the PERF lines to account for not having to pay that out of reassessment because we moved employees. Otherwise unchanged.
Okay.
So is the FICA and PERF identified in a line item?
Yes, FICA is 1224, 14,200, and PERF is 1224, 14,300.
I make a motion to approve 1001, 109 county assessor as approved on first reading. A motion to approve 1131 county sales disclosure fee fund as approved on first reading. And 1224 property assessment, move to approve as resubmitted on second reading.
I have a first by
Second.
Melinda Grissomer, a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Pam,
Yeah.
I didn't hear, where did he move the FICA and PERF to?
He didn't move it, Ron. He had moved some employees around, and he was trying to put X amount of employees from the reassessment into the general fund. So I believe we compromised. He moved a few this year and kept a few. So therefore, when that was recalculated, those numbers changed for FICA and PERF.
You got the changes?
Yeah, you should have a revised sheet, they were reduced.
Page 21, Ron.
Hi.
Elizabeth Alvey, Johnson County Auditor. No changes from first reading.
Okay, I move to approve 1157, 0102, 1216, 1217, 0102, and 1181 as approved on first reading.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Deere, a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Oh, Sheena, you're going down how far?
I can go all the way to 4203 Vassia guardianship fees.
This is our,
Which one?
4203 Vassia guardianship fees.
and this is the budget that was just for,
Everything is the same. I haven't changed anything since first reading.
just to bring the public up to date. This is the area that consolidated many budgets from the court. There was a
Correct.
total of
Yes.
how many?
7.
7 altogether. So again, in an effort to streamline the budget process. The courts and especially Sina has worked very hard on doing this, and we appreciate that as a council.
I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Motion. Right. I'll move to approve. Do I need to read all these?
I think you do.
Okay, in the unified budget that they've done so well.
Right.
Number 1001-0139, 1200-0131, 1200-0133, 1200-0134, 2501-0131, 2501-0132, 2501-0133, 2501-0134, 2501-0136, 2501-0145, 2201, 4917, 1213, and 4203. And again, I'll say as approved on the first reading.
Awesome. Have a motion by Mr. Myers,
Second.
a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena.
Good morning. Angela Morris, Director of Court Services and Chief Probation Officer.
How far on the list are you? How many funds are you going?
I don't have the agenda in front of me.
I think she goes all the way down to 100100140 juvenile detention.
She goes down to 1233, 159.
159?
Yes.
Oh, got it. Lit. Got it. So it looks like it's the next 6 on the list.
She has a couple budgets that were resubmitted. And we need to add in budget 1001-0159 that wasn't on the agenda.
Not on the agenda, right? Okay. So, and it was as resubmitted.
Some of them.
39.
Yeah, which ones were resubmitted, Amy?
1001, 0138, and 1122. They just switched 2 employees from
Yep.
one to the other.
Reducing it to the, yep.
So aside from what she just stated, there aren't any changes from first reading.
You took the easy way out.
Could you state that again, Amy? I'm sorry.
What?
Could you state what you just said, what was revised?
She moved 2 employees, so there was an adult probations clerk that was in the community corrections budget that really should be in the unified probations budget. And then they moved a field officer from over here to over there to offset, so. They just kind of put him in their realistic budget for, based on their workload.
So do we need to make that statement, or do we just approve as resubmitted on second reading?
As resubmitted.
All right, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. Move to approve as approved on the first reading. Number 1001-138, 2502, 2101, 1122, 1123, 1233-0159, and 1001-0159?
Yes.
And again, I'll state, move that to approve on first reading.
As resubmitted.
There was 2 that were
Oh, I'm
resubmitted.
sorry.
1001-138 was resubmitted and 1122 was resubmitted.
On second reading.
Okay, and then, so move to approve as resubmitted on second reading with the following changes, and we noted those. 1001-138 and number 1122.
I have a motion by Mr. Myers,
Second.
second by Mr. Deere. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, good morning. Lori Myers, Juvenile Community Corrections Director. And we have just 3 line items, 4950, 1001, 0213, 1233, 0213. No changes being requested from first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve 4950, 1001, 213, 1233, 213 as approved in the first reading.
None of those were resubmitted, correct? We have a motion by Ms. Grissomer,
Second.
second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Juvenile Detention Center. There are no representatives here from the Juvenile Detention Center.
I don't think there was any changes.
Yeah, but I really kind of want someone to,
Lori.
yeah, I think Lori can kind of, we were all waiting on you, Sheena.
Why didn't you say my name? Sorry. It's, I've slept since then, apparently. There's no changes, so.
And we're talking about the next 3, correct?
Yeah.
The 4950, the 1001, and the 1233?
You just did those. Those were
Oh,
the-
that's right. So it's the 1001 for 140 and 129?
No, just the 140.
140 only?
Yeah,
Okay.
I apologize.
I
She
wanted to
did
do
ask
all
me.
of them.
What page is that in?
I'll make a motion.
Hi, I'm also online.
There she goes.
She shouldn't have.
Hi, Christy. We were recruiting for you.
Sorry, everybody.
That's good. So did we have a motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve 1001, 140 Juvenile Detention Center as approved on first reading.
Have a motion by Ms. Grissomer,
Second.
second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you. That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Community Mental Health Center.
Mr. Baird did the last.
Mr. Baird did the last one. I bet he's not online this morning.
Thought maybe Sheena was supposed to do it and didn't
Sheena?
forgot.
Ron, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll do that. Normally, Mr. Brown, from Adult Child Services, provides some information to, he gives us an annual report every year.
I can't hear you, Ron.
Give me your mic.
We can't hear you now.
I've got these hearing aids on, it sounds like I'm screaming.
Sounds good to you.
Yeah. Anyway, typically, Mr. Brown, the CEO and Director of Adult and Child Mental Health, comes and makes a presentation and presents you with some annual information, statistics as to the amount of service they provide to
They
Johnson
can't,
County.
I'm sorry, Ron, but nobody can hear
Is
you.
this thing not working? Let me look here.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
And Ron, I'll go ahead and speak while you're making transition. He's no longer with Adult and Child, I believe. I
Oh,
believe he's
really? I did,
retired, yeah.
yeah, I didn't know that did he retire? Or?
Yeah, I think so, and we need to find a new contact.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If you get that information, let me know. I always reach out to them. But anyway, these are funds that we have to spend. It's mandated by the state that we spend a certain amount each year for mental health, basically, although they provide a number of services. And there's always, a slight annual increase. As I said at first reading, we're hopeful that maybe going forward, next year, we'll be able to divert some of these funds to our own behavioral health facilities. Something we'll try to find out next year.
Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty cut and dried.
Just so you know, the amount increases each year based on the state's average growth quotient. So it's
I didn't hear you
4%.
either. The amount increases each year based on the state's
Average growth quotient. which is
average
4%.
growth quotient. This amount is dictated to the county. The county pays that out of the general fund, and that has to go to the mental health facility. And that's determined, I guess, by the commissioners. And from what I understand, Johnson County is, when I say limited to, I don't mean that as a negative, but limited to what we currently have, correct?
To be clear, commissioners don't pick the center, it's from FSSA.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Everybody get that? Yeah. We're supposed to know it all, though. Okay, Ron, thank you on that one. I think we're probably ready for a motion for.
Make a motion to approve 10010129 as submitted on first reading.
We have a first by Mr. Deere, a second by Mr. Myers.
As approved on first reading?
Yeah, that's what he said. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So are you going to present, Ron, for Board of Commissioners?
Yes,
CUMCAP,
yes,
Board of Commissioners,
Right.
Health Insurance,
yeah.
and who's doing the redevelopment?
Hey,
Okay, so you've got the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
well, it will start with 1001022, Board of Commissioners.
Which one, I'm sorry, Ron, I can't, still having trouble hearing you. Which, you're starting with the 1001, 122,
Yes,
correct?
right,
They did resubmit a budget, but I know he's gonna talk.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
He did resubmit a budget, but I know he's gonna comment.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So we resubmitted the budget adhering to the 5%, although we still have the $10,000 supplement line items in, both for the county coordinator and the assistant county attorney. And I'll just give you some financial information in regard to that, some statistics. As you see, we didn't increase their annual salary by the 5% because we were asking for the supplement. But had we put that 5% on this year for their wages and then went forward next year, and if the council did a like amount of 5%, the net difference between those two 5% and the 10,000 we're asking for, and the county coordinator amounts to $2,323, and on the assistant county attorney amounts to $1,418. So you're looking at $3,741. Now, our contention is that these two individuals are providing a tremendous amount of service to the county, which saves the county money. We referenced before, Mr. Mollers has commented on having an HR person. We're able to meet those demands with these two individuals and save the county money. I'll go to the auditor's department. You have a supplement in there for Amy that started out at about $3,100 and went to almost $9,000 in 1 year increase, and then increase again. And nobody's complimented Amy more than I have on the service she provides to the county when it comes to budget process especially. But Pam, you were auditor at the time. You deemed her efforts as worthy of that supplement, and I couldn't agree more. And you've seen other departments come in, we'll just talk about the prosecutor for an example, where they have justified supplements for some of their employees based on their recognition of that employee's efforts and what they contribute to the county, both in effort and monetary. And we're doing the same thing. The commissioners are coming to you at this time telling you that these two people are providing these services that are significant to the county, cost savings to the county, and the increases we're looking for are in fact minimal. Now, we talked about being consistent through the process, but we'll look at unified courts as an example. There you put forth 7% raises to a number of positions under the contention of bringing these positions to equitable amounts. But there was no equitable amounts involved in that, quite honestly. I looked at those salaries that were adjusted 7%, and there wasn't nothing prior to that that would make them equitable to any other of the salaries. That was purely a 7% increase based on the judge's opinion that those people deemed that increase. Again, you're relying on elected officials or the department heads to make these decisions on what they feel like these employees should be compensated for. Now, we've talked a lot, and I heard Mr. Marlowe say he doesn't like comparisons. But Wagner, Irwin, Shealy, what do you think they're going to present you with? They don't establish salaries on any position. They do it through a comparable research of like positions in other offices. And that's what you're going to get from them. So we took the time to just get a few county administrators' salaries from other counties. And what we found is they had a high of $145,211 in 2023, which went to $148,602 in 24, to a low of $98,838. Our county coordinators, $78,000 plus. So if you're going to get Wagner, Irwin, Shealy's comparable numbers, they're going to reflect what I'm suggesting here, that our county coordinator is severely low in salary compared. I'll also point out that when Wagner, Irwin, Shealy did the employee evaluations and we established the CMOTs and the polls, they put the county administrator as a PAT 4. Well, PAT 4 is comparable to the fleet director, assistant director of adult and child, juvenile assistant director. My contention is that she was not appropriately positioned at that time. Should at least be a PAT 5. So in a PAT 5, you have the IT, I think, IT network administrator in the courts that this year is going to be making over $90,000. You're telling me that that position warrants almost $20,000 more than a county administrator? I couldn't disagree more. So that's the reason we're keeping those supplements in both the county assistant attorney and the county coordinator.
Is that all? You done?
Well, I'll answer questions.
I think, we're open for questions for anybody that has any. I think we hashed this out at first reading, pretty much the same thing. Since you did reference me being as auditor during this time, I will tell you, this council, long before this council, and long before many councils before this, established a line item in their budget for a wage to hire an outside assistant. At that time, I believe the person that was your county coordinator now was in that line item. So it was originally established, I believe, to accommodate the extra work that that person did, which It's great. I agree with everything that you said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
The person in that line item now, which as you referenced is Amy,
Right.
took that job. So whether the prior councils had, in my opinion, decided to hire a temp service or hire a complete outside person to do that, I don't believe their intention was to supplement any county attorney, or I'm sorry, any current employee. I believe it was, and I could be wrong, but I believe it was established to hire someone. I was told, and I'm not an attorney, that statute merely states the auditor's office is required to be here and take minutes, period, nothing more. So I'm sure as everyone here knows the magnitude, like you stated, of work that it requires, but I believe that's why that line item for a wage was established way back when. And it has followed the standard percentage of raises all along, which does accumulate. I haven't checked the numbers, but what you have said there. So I could, from being here forever, go along and address all the other supplements that have come in the past. And I will tell you, I don't know that I agree with them either. It's hard to go back and take them back. We have done some readjusting on some of them. And I will tell you, I don't disagree with anything that you've said. So my only hopes is, I'm going to call them WISPs, for lack of a better word, like they do with 80-90% of the other counties. My hopes is next year, and when they do an appropriate job study with the counties that we deem fit to compare us by, that position will be paid accordingly. But, and not to argue a point with anybody, because they're all worthy, not only your department, but others. So for me, just as one vote, I'm going to stand with that was adjustments made at first reading. Now, I have been told via emails and via phone calls that there's some other avenues that you guys have talked about pursuing. I don't know if that is correct or not, but I did want to relate to the line item for the person doing the additional work for us, since you did bring it up that I was auditor. So that's really all I've got to say. Anybody else, please chime in.
Yeah, I agree. I think Amy's position is for work that's outside her normal position, whereas these are supplements for the work that they currently do. So I don't think they're exactly the same. And you know, the reason I've been talking about an HR person is because there's 600-700 people here. There's a lot of issues that we talked about in our when I was a member of that personnel committee board thing. There's a lot of things that aren't done that we're trying to get WIS to do, whether it's job classifications, whether it's wage ranges. I mean, the issue that you just brought up, you had somebody in IT that's paid more than you think she should be. Those type of things are something that an HR person would deal with. I think we could, you know, we could set that parameter up. Maybe those inconsistencies could be dealt with if we had an HR person. So that's the only reason that I thought that might help solve some of these problems. You know, maybe not, but I do think that the Amy situation doesn't really apply because it's a separate position, separate duties over and above the duties that she does in the auditor's office, as you mentioned statutorily. And so that's all I got to say about those.
I'll just comment on two things there. One, I wasn't making a comparison to what Amy does. I agree, she does a tremendous amount. But as John mentioned, that's a service she provides beyond her regular duties. What we're saying to you, and apparently you're disregarding, is that the two employees we're talking about are currently doing much more than what their original job description was. We're asking you to take our word on the fact that these people are performing beyond the scope of their original intent. And they're doing it at considerable savings to the county. Now, we could hire an HR person, which I've strongly opposed for years for a variety of reasons, but an HR person, if we hire them, is going to cost you in excess of $100,000. By the time you have the salary, you throw the benefits in, the FICA and the PERF, it's going to cost you over $100,000. I'm telling you, for $3,818, you're getting comparable service from two people. The other thing too is the timing. Now, if you deny it this year, we got to go another year, right? Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy's going to start in December. They've said 6 to 8 months to come back with their conclusion or their, whatever they compile. That's going to put you beyond the budget system next year, the hearings. So now we're looking at 2 years out to effectively compensate these people for the value that they're providing to the county. I personally just don't understand, for the minimal amount of money, the service you're getting, the comparison to the others where you have not been consistent, and to consider the other supplements that other departments are getting. I'll just talk about the prosecutor for a second. The prosecutor, apparently you had a private meeting with him, and I don't know who all attended that, but you approved 3 positions with an annual salary of $124,000, much higher than any other salary that's listed in his budget proposal. So I can only assume one of 2 things. You agreed to a $124,000 salary as a way for him to elevate the other deputy prosecutors in the coming years to do much like the unified court system has done, where he brings everybody to that level, and or you included a supplement within that salary range. I don't know, I wasn't privy to the private conversation, you tell me. That $124,000, did that anticipate including the supplement that these 2 or 3 deputy prosecutors will get going forward?
No.
I was gonna say,
So then they're gonna get a supplement beyond that. So what you've done is set the bar at $124,000 for deputy prosecutors. I'm saying to you that if the prosecutor comes back next year and says, we want to do what the unified court system has done, we want to bring parity to all our deputy prosecutors, are you willing now to take those people making 80+ thousand to 124,000 next year or higher based on the percentage of salary increases you approve?
That was never discussed.
Back up to your reference to a private meeting. The only meetings that were had with the prosecutor were no different than any other offer throughout the county to meet as a liaison.
My reference to private just meant that it wasn't a public.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the people listening know that.
No,
There was
no degradation at the
There was
meeting
no
involved in
different
that,
than
yeah.
any other elected official.
I wasn't referring to.
Mr. Mallers is the liaison to
Right.
prosecutor's office, and I tell you, him, and he'll speak in a moment, and myself, both worked with the state on the numbers that were provided, the recommendations that they made, the percentages based on the crime, and none of us being professionals up here, and I think we were all present during the economics class that Mr. Hamner presented, but we did follow up on that, and there was much research done because that was a hard pull. So I'll let Mr. Mallers speak briefly on who he spoke with, what he did, and on that, since you've brought up the issue, so.
Well, you basically said it. It was a liaison meeting with the prosecutor, and he laid out his desires and his needs for getting people in there who can handle the issues. With the additional caseload, they've lost several people. It's hard to get new people. Talking with IPAC and the percentages that of understaffed the county is as far as deputy prosecutors, and what is necessary to get people out of law school. And that's what we came up with.
And I thought Lance did a good job in his presentation that he made at the workshop. But I'll go back and reference some of the things that he brought out in that. The length of time, some 7 years, the lengthy process to become an attorney. Well, our assistant county attorney met all of those requirements. The time and the money to become an attorney She's no different than attorneys in his office. The only difference is she's practicing law in one area, they're practicing law in another.
Can I make a motion?
We would need to make sure everybody's heard first.
Okay,
Let's-
I'm just throwing, okay, this is not a motion, I'm just talking. Can we possibly move this discussion toward the end of today? So we can.
Honestly, I mean, you guys we can do what you guys want, but I don't feel there is a need for it. I feel that we discussed it at first reading. I've got a stack of emails on the same conversation. I think all of us have made contact with individual liaisons. I mean, we'll do whatever you feel comfortable, Melinda, but I feel it's just pushing the can down the road. So I say we continue to discuss. I pretty much have made, my thoughts clear.
Right.
And Ron, you speak very eloquently. I admire everything that you do, and I don't know that I disagree with anything, and you have two wonderful employees there. But I'm going to stick to my guns. So at this point, now, there may even be further discussion on this once, I don't know where you want to go with some other information, but any gentleman down here like to speak, chime in?
Well, there are two issues that you're presenting. One is the county coordinator, and the second is the attorney. And the emails that we received talked about your ability, and you quoted it at the first reading, about your ability to proceed with increases for the county attorney. I don't believe, if I understood the memo that we received, that you have that same ability for the county coordinator. Is that?
That's right.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah, that's not a statute.
So there are two issues before us. One is the county coordinator. Second is the county attorney. Speaking to the overall issue, in my opinion, we're still dealing with, disagreements about what WIS can do, but that's where this current council is moved forward. And as my understanding, conversations that I had with WIS is that we got on their radar this year in December, and correct me, Pam, if
Have
I'm
the
wrong.
numbers back way quicker to be
But
able to
we
use
won't
them
be
for
getting them,
next
yeah,
year.
that we'll be getting sooner, not August, that we will be getting them before budget time, because we're in their line of people that be doing. So I wanted to correct what I understand is going on. Second is, we had the fleet director come and say, we saved $30,000 by not putting it out. We have those conversations along, a number of issues. And we've encouraged that particular department to provide documentation for the future for the reclassifications if as desired by the council. So I think there are two different issues on a motion that might take place. The second issue is the possibility of verifying with, who was you talking about, AIC? Who was it? Pam?
Board of Accounts.
John.
Board of
State
Accounts.
Board of Accounts, about the attorney, your ability to do what you want to do with the attorney. So I think any motion has to separate those, if that's understood.
But I think if in fact that is something that the commissioners choose to pursue, that will be an entity by itself, I believe, not necessarily here today. So if in fact that's the path they choose to move forward on, it would be something that would be brought back to the council, I'm sure via legal notice. I'm not sure what a writ does. But again, we're talking about a subject I've not heard mentioned in a public meeting other than the first reading when you mentioned it. So.
Yeah, and the statute is available, but it's not our desire to exercise that. We're respectful of the council and what the council does. We feel better for you to make that decision to approve these supplements based on the information we provided. And I think each and every one of you up there is aware of the work that these people are putting forward to save the county a lot of money.
We are fortunate enough to
Yeah.
have a lot of county employees
So-
that do that.
Yeah, we're not wanting to exercise any statute that's available. We're asking you to do that, to recognize what we're presenting to you, to recognize the efforts that these employees are putting forward.
real quickly. Ron, thank you, because I don't disagree with the thing you've said, and I would like nothing more than to be able to support this. The issue I have is, with one word you said, you've got to trust the commissioners to come forward with this recommendation. There isn't a person in this room that I don't trust to come forward and talk about what they'd like to do for their employees, which is where the conflict I have in my mind is. We need to have a framework around how we deal with issues just like this and figure out how we can do the right thing inside a defined framework. That's what we're trying to move towards. And that brings some objectivity along with an element of subjectivity, to your point, into that decision-making piece. That's where I find myself, and we don't have that right now. So to base a decision on the fact that the commissioners believe this is the right thing to do and trust us, we believe it is, which I agree with you. What do we do with the next department head or the next elected official that comes up and says the same thing? That creates a little bit of an issue for us. So that's why I think moving down the road here, this whole deal with WIS is, and expediting that to the extent we can and putting an element of urgency on it makes some sense, so we can get the framework I'm talking about, so we can deal with these things in a more expedited and manner, and one that might be a little less, I guess, I'm going to use contentious. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Contentious.
Yeah. So that's where I find myself.
And to reference exactly what you said, you've already recognized other departments heads or elected officials, some you denied, some you approved. You have done exactly what I'm asking you to do. And again, I go to the unified courts, I'll go to the prosecutor where you recognize certain things that they've brought forward and you've approved it. And so here's what I'm saying. And I know you're waiting for Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy to get involved here. To Ron's point, their proposal says 6 to 8 months, so that's where I got the 6 to 8 months. If they can expedite it, so be it, but I'm just going by their proposal. So what I'm saying to you is, I have no problem with you recognize whatever they bring forward, but what I'm asking is for $3,818. Let's put this in place now. And then when they come back with their report, if it nullifies anything and everything I've said or brought forward, then so be it, and we'll buy that. If it comes back and it's more, then you'll make that decision. So I'm just saying for $3,818, you're getting a heck of a lot of service out of 2 people, and I don't want to wait 2 years to see them properly compensated.
You know, Ron, the other thing that's interesting is, on a high level, it's interesting to me that one of the very things you are against, which is a more established and more formal personnel area inside, as John said, basically an entity that has 600-700 employees. The very thing you're against is the very thing that would solve this problem or provide a solution to this problem. So I see that gap as being kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I'd be happy, not in this forum, but later to debate an HR person with you.
I don't want to do that now either, but I'm just making the point.
I've been involved for 24 years in county politics, and I can assure you, John, and we can have this discussion, that when you're dealing with a myriad of elected officials, an HR person doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose beyond what those elected officials are going to bring forward. They make those decisions. We go to lunch.
That's probably worth a conversation.
Conversation.
That's a fair point.
I'd be happy to do that.
Which confirms some of my verbiage before of, yes, there's a lot of HR work done in-house, but that also includes a lot of other department heads that have their fingers in the HR and things. So in order to move the meeting forward, I would ask Commissioner if he has anything further he would like to state. And is there any further discussion among the council? Any questions, any comments?
I'd like to just say a few words.
Okay.
I'll keep it short.
No problem.
So this is the dilemma that we have as a council. We're getting things that have rolled forward not appropriately. So this position, or this, how do I want to say it? This account description is how we have it listed. These positions have rolled forward, and a lot of times they've gone through a COVID period of time when the council really was pulling back on the reins. And it didn't keep up with the percentages of cost of living and other things. So there are positions that have been trapped in that, and they haven't gone forward properly. And so I just wanted to say that, and I think that this position is one of those. And I believe that our attorneys are fine people, and we have a problem that we're going to get a turnover, I think, if we don't address this pretty quickly. Now, if we approve this budget, that's for 25. And as Ron says, we're going forward to 26, and then the changes we make in 25 are going to go, even farther. So everything we do is 18 months behind. We're 18 months behind of the data. We're 18 months behind on the comparisons. And so it's just a real quandary. And I appreciate what the council's done, in representing the interests of the taxpayers. I think in this case, we would be acting in the interest of the taxpayer by approving this commissioner's budget at this time. That's my 2 cents.
Anybody else?
Well, I guess I had a question or comment. If we get Wagner, Irwin Sheets results back and they confirm what you said, would you be willing to cut back on that? Because when we approve it for the line item, not for necessarily for the person. So when we get the information back from them, are you willing to make some other adjustments in your budget? I mean, we'll have to obviously make adjustments in ours too, but you're wanting to do a supplement, right?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking.
I think I know what she
but-
means.
Maybe I'm just not
but
wording
we're-
my phrasing
As I
right.
stated earlier, we're willing to go along with whatever Wagner, Irwin, Shealy bring forward. And once they establish positions, they establish comparable salaries in regard to those positions, we're agreeable to accepting that. Yes, we don't have a problem with that. Only thing that I'm asking you now is to basically approve $3,818 for 2 people for the next 18 months, as Councilman Myers appropriately pointed out. That's what I'm asking you to do. I've got no problem going along, or I can't say me, the commissioners have no problem going along with whatever Wagner, Irwin, Shealy bring back. The job descriptions and salaries, we're willing to do that.
So with that, I would comment, that's a good stance. But in my opinion, if that's done, then every elected official that's come before us is going to have the same right to come back and say, oh, but my employee is worth more to this, why, and I'll give it back next year if it doesn't meet.
I'm not saying give it back. I'm just saying adhere to whatever they bring forward.
Yeah. So, Melinda, did that answer your
It
question?
did, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? As far as, I guess I just want to say, as far as the statute that was provided on what, it was a may, not a shall. And the statute, I read both of them, and I'm no way an attorney, but there are some options in there for the attorney's salary and the commissioners. I know we have access to, if that's the route you choose to go, our next step would be just to talk with AIC and some of the other people, see how this has been handled in the past. Is this something that the council wants to end up in court over? Absolutely not. But we'll be glad to do additional research for the attorneys may or may not establish to pay. Now, that would have to be done under an additional appropriation if that comes back at another time, not during budget. But I believe that would be our stance moving forward. So, but if there's no other questions, you have nothing else that you want to enter, floor's open for a motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve as approved on the first reading, Board of Commissioners budget for 1001-0122.
To leave out the stipends, because that was what was done on the first reading.
To leave out the stipends.
Yeah. I think you're making a motion you don't want to make.
Well, move to approve, I'd like to amend that. Approve as resubmitted on the second reading with the following changes. The $10,000 stipend for Assistant County Attorney and the $10,000 stipend for the County Coordinator.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Myers to approve the Commissioner's Budget 1001-122 as being resubmitted on the second reading to include the original stipends for both the Assistant County Attorney and the County Coordinator, I believe, of $10,000 each. So that is the motion, correct?
Correct.
Have a first?
I have one before do I need to address the PERF and the Employee Group Health Insurance?
No, I'll do that at final adoption. But on the revisions, I did put in 5% in their individual salary. So you're doing that and the supplement, because that's not what they asked for.
Correct. At the first reading, we removed the supplemental line items and gave both of them a 5% increase. So I guess what Amy's asking is you want to remove the 5% and add the stipends? Or you want to give?
To those two positions?
Yeah.
Well, the revised looks like it has both.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, we have.
Is that what they're wanting?
No, I just gave you guys the,
Oh,
I
okay.
figured one would change versus
Right.
the other.
Okay.
I was just,
I got you.
Yeah, we're taking the 5% out, leaving it at the 2024
So the motion would be to
level.
remove the 5% and go with the stipends, I believe.
And he's already done that, correct?
Nope.
That's our
No,
proposal.
the revised budget you have has the salaries with the 5% with addition to the stipend, depending on how the vote was gonna go. That the actual request is to have the Assistant County Attorney and the County Coordinator raises be at 0 with the supplement.
So
So you don't want to approve it as presented, otherwise you're gonna give them a 5% raise and the supplement.
in addition to my motion.
could you just
is
restate
there-
your motion?
Yeah, okay, move to approve as resubmitted on second reading with the following changes. The county coordinator to remain at the 2024 adopted budget of $74,898. And the assistant, did I do that right? And then the county attorney, what line item is that? I'm sorry, I'm missing it.
It's the first one, so it's
Top one.
83,725 and the,
Yes, on account number 11013. That remains at the 2024 adopted budget of $83,725. Then changing 12902 stipend to $10,000 and 12903 to $10,000. Cover it?
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Myers. Calling for a second. It appears the motion has died for lack of a second. The floor is open for an additional motion.
I move to approve 1001, 122 Board of Commissioners as revised, as resubmitted on second.
First reading.
Oh, as approved on first reading?
As
Yes.
resubmitted on second reading with the following.
I thought that's what I said.
You did.
Okay, I'm sorry. Move to approve 1001, 122 as resubmitted on second reading with the following changes. Zeroing out the supplements 12902 and 12903 from 10,000 to 0.
And that
Which-
leaves the 5%.
And that leaves the 5% raises in for Assistant County Attorney and County Coordinator.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Dittmers.
Mr. Mallers.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mallers, you are
Yeah.
correct.
Mr. Dimmers will second it.
Mr. Dittmers is seconding the motion.
The guy with the bald head.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. No, Seneca, we're not quite ready. We have to move on to 1138, 1157, and 4702, and 4112 with the commissioners.
There are no changes there as originally presented.
Mr. West indicated there was no changes as originally submitted. So the floor is open for a motion.
I would suggest on 1157-0122, I'd advertise $1 million for health insurance.
Uh-huh.
If you would just reduce that to 950,000.
Okay, 950,000. Okay.
Stab at it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Myers.
Move to approve as approved on the first reading, and I'm going to take all of these with the exception of one. 1001, 0122, 1138, 0122, number 4702, and number 4112.
John, there's a correction to that. We already done 0122.
Yeah, we did 0122, the very
Yeah.
beginning.
All right, remove 0111, 0122.
And then 4702 needs a decrease to 95,000.
I was going to make a separate motion for that. Is that okay? Or do you want me?
We can do it all in one motion, can't we? Whatever you want to do is fine.
I think so, yeah.
So is that the motion?
Well, I'll come back for the one. Do I need to come back for the one to?
It's up to you.
All right, add in number 11570122 as resubmitted on the second reading with the following changes.
No.
Yeah,
No. It's the 4702.
No, he's correct.
So just so I'm clear, we're approving 1138, 1157, 4702, and 4112. Only thing we're doing at reading, only thing we're doing is reducing the to 95K.
1157-0122, reducing it to 950,000.
950,000. Okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to be clear on what was,
The other four are as approved on first.
I'm sorry, John, you want to try that again? I've got a better understanding.
so I'm going to leave that one out.
Okay.
So try not to do 0122 again. 11380122. And these are all moved to approve on the first reading. Number 4702 and number 4112. And again, those are as approved on the first reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have a motion on the floor. I'm still concentrating. By Mr. Myers,
Second.
a second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Yes, open for a motion for the employee group self-funded health insurance.
No, I think it's
1157-0122.
There you go, Board of Commissioners.
Okay, so move to approve as resubmitted on second reading with the following changes. Number 11570122, move from the advertised 1 million to $950,000.
Thank you. I had a problem with that one, that's right. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Myers, a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Hi, Seneca.
Hi. Glad to be here.
We do the RDC.
Do we already see?
Oh, did we miss RDC?
Did.
They did it.
They did.
We did?
They did?
Yeah, it was
did.
approved, yeah.
I didn't know
He
that.
made it in the first motion.
I'll sit back down if you need me.
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry, that one was a little
I tried to get a
complicated.
head start, I got to get it oiled up. But, so I'm Seneca, I'm with Johnson County Veterans Affairs. In transparency, I did have a revision between first and second reading. We've spoke about it Monday before the council, and so I have no changes to my revised budget as presented to you today.
Okay, but you need to talk about that, what that revision was, so the public will have an idea of what you're changing.
Yeah, so we pride ourselves on being the best in the state in all things, but especially at our Veterans Affairs Office. And in order to ensure that we continue in that projected direction, we were advised that we needed to add another full-time service officer. And I absolutely support it, and it's my understanding that most people do too. And so that was the revision between first and last. There wasn't any additional appropriations or anything like that for like individual stuff. It was just an additional person in the office.
Okay, so I hear you say that after talking to your advisors and the people that pitch in from other offices to help cover your office when you can't, that it's been a long time coming, but you've decided this year to come back and ask for an additional employee.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I believe that's kind of what you said on, you and Commissioner Walls on Monday night for us to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
Correct? Any conversation or questions to the budget for Veterans Office as presented on this second reading? I believe the only changes he is indicating is the addition of a new full-time employee.
I need to make a comment in regard to that.
Can you, okay, go ahead.
It's my position, and I think the other two commissioners would support this, is that we look at this as a part-time position initially. And the reasoning behind that is Seneca has brought forward a 4-point program that he's going to initiate going forward, which, if effective, would minimize the amount of clients that he's interviewing or entertaining. So what I'm suggesting is maybe initially, we look at this position as a part-time. Now, maybe you could, if you wanted to pass it as a full-time and give us the option of making it part-time initially, we would accept that, of course. But the idea behind part-time is you don't have the benefits applied to that position. He has more flexibility, gives him a chance to initiate his 4-point program that he's bringing forward, and give us a chance overall to review the effectiveness of him being able to appropriately handle the client situation he has. As Seneca's pointed out before, a large percentage of the people he works with are from out of county. And so some of the things he's going to bring forward would maybe minimize that. We're not suggesting that those people don't get appropriate service. We're just going to try to redirect them in an effort where they can get it and take some of the burden off of his office. So I just wanted to point that out. It would be obviously some cost savings initially to the county. I'm always concerned, as I've mentioned numerous times, looking out for the taxpayer. And I'll leave that decision up to you guys.
The other option would be to add $1 to the part-time line item, to keep that there, and then that would give the commissioners in Seneca the rest of the year to figure out exactly how this will work, and then if we're gonna do a part-time position, then just do a transfer of the full-time line item to a part-time line item and proceed with a part-time employee.
So then at the part-time portion of it, would we need to establish this position and a new rate? And then Seneca, what would you start out somebody at hourly?
Hourly, if it's part-time, it's $20, which comes to an annual salary of $31,200 in the part-time line item. And then an additional full-time service officer is $51,278.
Which you may or may not start them out at that, correct? It's according to,
Yeah, I
based on
mean,
their
we could-
experience.
Yeah,
So is what's being proposed here by Commissioner, is that something that I'm assuming you've talked to them about and you're prepared to work with that moving forward, or?
yeah, so the initial plan that we had after the commissioners meeting Monday morning was, hey, let's shoot for, they're being super conservative this year, let's shoot for a part-time, but then throughout the day progressed and later meetings happened and we spoke to council and then we said, hey, let's go for the full-time, because if we don't do it now, we're just gonna do it in 6 months, so let's just eat it. And so the direction I received from my direct superior was just shoot for a full-time and see where it lands.
Okay.
So that's what I'm presenting today, is the addition of a full-time service officer.
Discussion?
All right, so it gets a little bit confusing. So the request for the full-time line position, the monies that are there would be used part of the year in part-time? And Amy's saying,
It got confused, it's getting butchered. I'm up here asking for a full-time person, that's it, at $51,278. But
I think
if
what-
that doesn't get approved, then I'm gonna come back, or just continue to stand here and ask for a part-time person at $31,200.
Please
or
don't do
whatever.
that.
Yeah, I know, it's up to you guys. I was told by my direct superior, shoot for full-time.
I think what Ron wants to do, or what Ron, you guys are over that department, aren't you, Ron?
Yes.
You're over Veterans Affairs. I think what the commissioners are suggesting is go ahead and approve a full-time person as Seneca is requesting. But they have talked among themselves and asked us to keep a $1 in their part-time line item, because they really would like to start somebody just as an additional part-time person, paying them out of there. And if that works into full-time, or they see they need it full-time, switch it over. And then if they need more money in the part-time line item and not do the full-time, they'll come back and just reappropriate funds to cover that.
or switch it,
Right,
yeah.
right. So I think it just, is that correct, what you were saying? Yeah. So I believe that's the
That
ask.
makes sense.
So anybody else? Mr. Myers? No? Linda? Anybody? Okay. So we are open for a motion.
So this would be a motion to approve 10010120 as resubmitted on second reading.
And in
With
adding,
the following change.
Need to add $1 to part.
Oh, and adding $1 to part-time.
and a full-time employee.
It
Well,
was,
that's
No,
resubmitted.
it was in there, okay,
That's
okay, so
resubmitted,
adding
yeah.
the dollar, okay.
All right, so and adding $1 to line item 11,400.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mallers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're gonna take a break.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Before we move on, how about we do 10, 12 minutes? Do a break, and then we'll start back with weights and measures. Hello?
You all on that?
Here, we are now.
You are on.
Thank you.
I don't think I'm on. Never mind.
Okay, we have weights and measures up next, and I believe you have two line items, 1157-0121 and 4202, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And nothing's changed from the first
You
reading.
want to state your name for the
Greg
record?
Nelson, Weights and Measures.
Hi, Greg. And again, you said nothing has
Nothing's
changed
changed.
since first reading?
So I move to approve as approved on the first, or I'm sorry.
He resubmitted.
We have an amended one here.
He resubmitted correcting the salaries.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. You are fine. So it just needs to be the second option as resubmitted.
Or just the 1157, 121, the other one.
Yeah, the 1157, 121 was resubmitted.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? 1157, 121 was resubmitted?
Yeah, page 56 revised.
Okay, so
Here.
motion to approve number 4202 as approved on the first reading, and then 1157-0121 move to approve as resubmitted on second reading.
Good job. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Myers,
Second.
a second by Mr. Deere. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have the museum on page 57. That also was revised down to the 5%.
Barb Davis, County Coordinator.
Hi, Barb.
Hi. No changes to the museum's budget except for the 2 salaries was lowered to the 5%. Everything else remains the same.
Move to approve as resubmitted on second reading.
We have a motion by Mr. Mallers,
Second.
second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Emergency management. Hi, Stephanie. Stephanie has 2 before us this morning, 1001, 127, and 1152.
Yeah, Stephanie Season, Emergency Management Director. It's a resubmit from first reading to take my salaries down to 5%. And the 1152 was no change from the first reading.
Prepared for a motion?
Move to approve 1001, 127 as resubmitted on second reading, and 1152 as approved on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Mallers, a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes.
Okay, I would like to thank Ron Deere for being the council representative to my EMA Advisory Council. He attended almost all of our meetings, quarterly meetings. So I want to thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And the Health Department would also like to thank you for helping them too.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. Very nice. Okay, the Department of Planning and Zoning.
Michelle Hansard, Director of Planning and Zoning, for 1157-0117, 1197, and 4901. 1157 and 1197 are revised with that 5% instead of 8% salary.
And 4901 stays the same, correct? Discussion? Motion when anyone is ready.
Make a motion to approve 1157-01117 as resubmitted and 1197 as submitted on first reading. Is that correct?
And those revisions to 1157 and 1197, correct?
Yes.
And then 4901 is the same.
All right, 1157-0117 as resubmitted, and 1197 as resubmitted, and 4901 as originally submitted. Is that correct? As on first reading.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Deere,
Second.
second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Courthouse.
I'm going to take that. Jason's ill today and not able to attend, but.
Barbie was coming up, but that's okay.
Oh, Barb's not good?
Barb Davis, County Coordinator.
Barb, you're doing,
Courthouse maintenance,
Uh-huh.
the 123, and the Cume Cap Development Courthouse.
okay,
So courthouse maintenance, all the salaries reduced to 5%. The two new positions, they were submitted at 8%. I'd like to lower those to the 5. So account 12109, please lower that to 41,432. And account 12114 to 49,569.
Those are reflected in the resubmitted budget
okay. So the motion can be as presented, as
as resubmitted.
resubmitted. Okay.
And no other changes?
I'd move to approve courthouse maintenance 01123 and 1138, 123, as resubmitted on second reading.
We have a motion by Mr. Dittmers.
I had a question on the part-time was 8%.
Did we overlook that?
Here.
What line
Am I
item?
looking at the wrong one?
I don't know.
No, I'm not.
Well,
Where is
I
it?
thought it was revised.
It's part-time.
What page?
The part-time
62.
is 11400, the second line item.
Yeah, is it 5 or 8?
Should it be 5?
Well, the part-time amounts are determined separately, so,
Oh, yeah.
Motion stands.
yeah,
Never mind.
so we're okay with that, aren't we? Yeah, okay. I see it reflects that 8%, but it's actually between their margin and what he chooses to pay.
Right.
Okay, so we had a first by Mr. Dittmers, correct?
Correct.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Barbie.
On the Cume Cap courthouse
Oh, I'm
maintenance.
sorry, I thought we did both of them.
Oh, I got it, did I not? I said it, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah, we took both of them at one time.
Yeah.
IT and GIS?
Jeff West, IT GIS Administrator. No changes on mine except for the salary decrease.
And that was resubmitted, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve 1138, 141 Cume Cap for IT as resubmitted on second reading.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Mallers,
Second.
and we have a second by Mr. Deere. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to, before you start, I'd like to make it, no, you're good. I'd like to make an announcement that the advertisement states we will be doing the binding units at 1 o'clock. So if we are not done with this list, we are going to break for lunch about 11:45, come back at 1 for binding units, and then we will, after binding units, we will continue with anything that's left on the original agenda. So just so everyone can prepare, that's the plan. So, now, Fleet?
Bob Galinsky, Johnson County Fleet. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm super fantastic.
So are you just presenting your budget as revised?
I am.
Okay. That one had been revised to 5%, correct?
He resubmitted it 5% and added a line item.
Oh,
Added a
well,
line
you need to talk about the line item you added, if that, so you
You want me to
resubmitted
put
the
my glasses and
5%.
everything on.
Can't sneak one by us And you added a line item. We need to know what that is.
Specialization payment for the specialized work that the employees do.
Okay, I'm going to need you probably for public, you need to elaborate on what you're talking about.
They do specialized jobs that require certain skills and qualifications. And my first proposal was to pay them at an appropriate rate that I found around the area, which was denied and put to 5%, which is wonderful and fine. But so, the thought is seeing other departments that have specialization payment items, line items, that would be a way to support the efforts and their qualifications. Pay them accordingly.
What does that mean, Bob? Support their efforts, what's that mean?
It's a way, in my belief, it's just a way that we can get a pay scale that's a little bit more competitive than what we currently pay our individuals, comparison to other municipalities.
So is that a discretionary payroll line then to accommodate what certifications that people get? Some of your,
I guess, yeah, sure, if that's how you want to explain it, I think, yeah, I mean, because they have specializations, no different than any other departments that have specialization payments, it's just a way to have them have a pay scale that's deserving.
So how much money did you request in the line item?
$8,000
And how many
between two.
officially certified?
Between two.
Can you talk about your certification, where they
Yeah,
went to school, what they
they're-
did?
They're both certified in multiple things. Tires, air, AC, mechanics, diesel mechanics, electronics, upfitting. The list just goes on and on. I have a list, I think.
Yeah, we got the list. I really wanted you to be transparent though for the public.
Sure.
And let them, because
Yep.
sometimes you can get on the internet and you can get certified for whatever you want, whenever you want.
But the proof's in the pudding.
Right, So, exactly. That's why I
You can
wanted
do
to
what
talk
you
about
want, but if you can't do it, perform those activities, someone's gonna know. So, you've got the AC system certification, brake repair specialist, electronic systems, emergency lighting installation, radar systems, that's something that really needs to be recognized that, one of our guys a week and a half ago took a radar apart and rewired the internal of it. I mean, that saved, $4,000.
I don't think anybody,
So, those are just some of the qualifications. There's vehicle camera installation, emergency equipment programming, metal fabricating, welding.
I got a question, and it's only because I just don't know.
Sure.
But, are these things just things they can do, or are there actual?
They're certified in doing
Yeah,
those
it's not just
things.
part of their normal job. This is a
Yeah.
certification, an
Yes.
actual nationally recognized
Yes.
level of
The
competence.
boys are trying to find through, after 25 years of their life, trying to find all their certifications.
Okay.
And so these gentlemen or employees have paid for this extra certification on their own?
Yes. Well,
County
throughout,
didn't
through
pay.
other jobs, they have the opportunity to do those as well as,
My point
pay
is
for
that the
school.
county didn't pay for their
Correct, that is
certification.
correct.
playing the devil's advocate here. This may not
That's
be.
why we're here.
This may not be a whole lot different than what Ron spoke of with the county attorney. So there are gonna be people out there who think, oh, that's just a backdoor way to get that raise that you didn't get. Okay, so, trying to stay fair and equitable. I guess elaborate, that's exactly, that is what we're doing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be worth my weight in salt if I wasn't trying.
And absolutely. And I can't say that, like with all the other departments, I can't say that I do not disagree with you. And again, I want to point back that hopefully next year, with those certifications in hand,
Yeah.
that it will, that framework will be right there.
Yeah.
This is what you're paying him, this is
Yeah.
what you should be paying him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I'm hoping that next year there's more of a framework that
Sure.
will be black and white.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you coming with the information. So, anybody else have questions? You have anything else you want to add?
No,
All right,
I'll wait for you guys.
all right. So, I hear, well, you guys heard everything I heard, so I guess we're open for a motion. On item 1001, 144.
Okay, I believe the motion would be to approve, move to approve on second reading with the following changes, and that's reducing or eliminating the specialization pay at this time.
Taking the, yeah. So the resubmission showed it at 5%, correct? And then adding a new line item? Yes. So those two things would be what you would have to recognize, Ron, is.
Well, it's as resubmitted, but I'm saying eliminate
Okay,
the specialization pay, so is that the correct motion, Amy?
okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Deere.
Can I interrupt for a second? I would suggest that if you're going to eliminate that, then take my 5%, make mine 0, and make my guys split my 5%.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well,
No, it's
that-
nothing to do with being nice. I want to be fair to my guys.
I've seen that many times in the past. You not being an elected official, I know elected officials are no longer allowed to do that. I'm not so sure that wouldn't be a decision that would need to be made by the commissioners. I don't know how that would be handled, but is it here? Is that where we make that decision? So,
Yeah.
And I mean that 100%. With my
Yeah.
heart. I want, that is my
Yeah.
choice, I believe, to give up mine to give to
Yeah.
my fellows.
yeah, well, I'm not so sure without thinking about that, how I feel about that for me personally, so we can open.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, then you're gonna have every other elected official that would choose to come back and do that, or every other department head to do that. So,
So can he come back then in January?
Melinda, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not sure what the options are here. I believe it's just it's something if we decide to do. Adam,
I haven't seen any.
I have a procedural question. There's a motion on the floor, there needs to be a second
Right.
before
Oh,
the
that's true.
discussion.
right, exactly. So we do have a motion on the floor to approve this budget as resubmitted minus the additional line item. Is that
Yes.
that was the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. We will do additional discussion after this and the vote. So is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
We have a second by Mr. Myers. All in
No,
favor?
it's discussion. There's additional discussion.
Does the additional discussion come now or after the vote?
There's no point in having discussion after the vote if it passes.
Okay,
so.
okay. Good point. So, additional discussion.
Bob, I appreciate your chivalry,
I appreciate that.
but we're up here looking at positions, and
I said
we're
come back
funding
in
positions.
January.
So
I understand 100%, but I truly believe that
you can take them out to lunch every day.
doesn't put anything in their pocket.
And, it doesn't. But I'm sure there are a lot of others that would, I've done the same thing in the past. So, but again, this council is trying to be fair, transparent, and equitable. So, anyway, the vote, any further discussion? None? Okay, so we have a first by Mr. Deere, a second by Mr. Myers, to approve as resubmitted, eliminating the additional line item. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Public Safety Communications and 911. Hi.
Hello, Heath Brandt, 911 Director. I resubmitted with the changes we discussed in the first reading with the reduction to the 5% and then the addition of line item for shift differential.
Any discussion or questions? If not, I'm prepared to take a motion.
Move to approve 1001-0911 as resubmitted on second reading.
And are you gonna take 1222?
I'm sorry.
1222.
And 1222, is that one revised?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, as revised on second reading.
Have a motion on the floor by Mr. Deere,
Second.
a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you. And I'd like to echo Stephanie's comments. Mr. Deere, thank you for your time on the 911 board and actually coming and sitting with our dispatchers for a period of time and learning what they do. It's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you. It's been enlightening, to say the least.
There's our highwaymen.
Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. I have to cut some of my presentation, but I should be done by lunchtime.
How far down are you going, Luke? All the way down to 1112 lit?
Yes, so the next 6 items.
Okay.
Of those, 1138, 206, 1169, 1001, 201, and 1112. There are no changes from what was presented and approved at the first reading. In 1176, that is the fund that the health insurance was moved out of. The salaries have been adjusted to the 5% requirement there. In addition to that, the PERF and Social Security were adjusted accordingly. I mentioned that that would free up about $305,000. So of that, the bulk of that goes into the 46001 line item, which is our asphalt concrete aggregates line item. There are 4 other changes. 2 of them are in the 200 series, 22100.
Hang on a minute, Luke. I gotta find you here.
Okay.
Yeah, what fund are you in?
Oh, sorry, 1176.
Page 70, 69, 70.
Page what?
69, 70, 71.
And what fund was it, Luke?
1176.
And what line item?
So 22100 and 23200, those are vehicle maintenance supplies and building garage supplies. I had lowered those when I was initially failing to stay within budget with the health insurance in there. So I adjusted those back to what they currently are in 2024. In addition to that, 31400 roadside safety, put a little extra money in there. And 33100 vehicle repair and maintenance, additional money in that line item as well, as we have already expended it for 2024. So the bulk of that health insurance savings, vast majority of it, went into that 46001 asphalt concrete aggregates line item to be used towards our work program. There were just some other minor adjustments that were made to those 4 line items I mentioned. And then 1138,206, the only change was the adjustment of those salaries to the 5% increase.
I understood everything that you said,
Good. That was my goal.
and I appreciate that, but I have no idea how y'all are gonna make a motion for that. So we have, just so I'm clear here, we have,
So Amy, do we have everything in front of us that?
Yes.
has been- Okay.
so there were no changes to the 1138, the 1169, the 1001, or the 1112.
The 1138 just had the salary changes.
So that was
positions,
revised with salary changes.
but I believe that's what was approved at the first reading.
Okay.
206,
Yeah.
1176 and 1138 would be as submitted on second reading. The other funds are as approved at first reading.
Yeah, so what I
Would be
walked
the motion.
I didn't hear a
through-
word you said. 1176 and 11 what?
38
As resubmitted
on second reading.
on second,
All the other funds are as approved on first reading.
all other?
Yeah, so what's in front of you, there are no changes. What I walked through was what the changes I had made and resubmitted from
Yeah.
the first reading.
And I think we all understood that. I just needed to know what the motion should be, so,
I think I got it.
good.
I hope. I'm going to make it simple, but I know it's subject to revision. My motion is subject to revision.
Hang on, let's make sure there's no further discussion, questions?
Good.
Okay, open for motion.
All right, so move to approve as resubmitted on a second reading, fund number 1176 and fund number 1138, and then move to approve as resubmitted on the second reading. Is that correct?
First reading.
Just move it on first reading? Okay, number 1001, 0206, 1169, 1001, 0201, and 1112.
Did that cover it? We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Myers.
Can I ask a quick question? On 1001-206, the original one had 8%, and now this one has 5%. Shouldn't that be as resubmitted, 206?
She
That
did,
was the 1138.
he mentioned
John's
1138 is resubmitted on second reading. So that would be at the 5%.
I don't see any in 1138, I don't see any wages. I see them at 101-206.
There are multiple departments in 1138. Oh,
No, I
sorry.
get that.
No, you're
Sorry.
correct.
One,
It
you
is-
are correct.
It is the 1001. See what happens when you listen to
So where are we?
So subject to revision.
So 1176, so the first two funds, 1176 and 1001-0206 are both resubmitted.
Okay, so I need to add the number 1001, 0206 to the revised.
1138-206 will be not revised.
And
Ah,
then remove the revision, and that is approved as on the first reading.
okay, we have an appropriate motion on the floor.
We think.
We think.
I think I'll second it.
And Mr. Dittmers seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you do, Luke.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Absolutely.
You too, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Daniel, too.
Hi,
Good morning, Mike Clark, Deputy Director, Johnson County Animal Shelter and Animal Control.
Mr. Clark, you're taking the first, or 4008 and 4101, 4122, 4915, 2510, 2516?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you want to tell us what's going on here?
We resubmitted with the 5% change and the raises and no other changes.
Okay.
Would move to approve as resubmitted on second reading, 4008, animal shelter, 4101, 4122, 4915, 2510, and 2516.
As approved first reading.
As a resubmitted.
It's resubmitted,
Yep.
isn't it?
Only 4008 was resubmitted.
Oh, the other ones, whatever it needs to be on the first reading, that's what I said, and whatever it needs to be on the second reading, I said that as well.
Just speak up next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
There are definitely echoes in this chamber, so.
We have a first by Mr. Dittmers, a second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Stop
Okay. Prosecuting attorney.
I bet he wasn't expecting to get here that quick.
Okay, it looks like he has the next four: 1001, 0108, 1001, 0118, 2505, and 2509. It doesn't appear anyone is here.
2508 and 2509.
I said 2508 and 2509.
2505.
Sorry. Anyway, it doesn't appear to be anyone here, so I'm going to call on Mr. Mallers to briefly describe the changes that were made at first reading. Or would you like to do that?
No, there was no changes after, you guys, changes were presented at first reading and approved.
Okay, so there was not, once the changes were made at first reading, that's how it was presented. Okay. Do you have anything that you want to say about, that since you worked with him?
No, other than, on pretrial, 3 of the supplements are gone there's 3 positions approved, 3 supplements approved, instead of 6 is what it was before.
Right, right. Any further discussion? Not prepared for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as approved on the first reading, right?
Yeah, because the revisions were made prior to,
Okay.
yeah.
Account 1001-108, prosecuting attorney 1001-118, prosecutor 4D, 2508, prosecutor deferral program, and 2509, pretrial diversion.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Grissomer,
Second. Yeah, put it on.
second by Mr. Deere. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes. Sheriff?
Wayne Burgess, Johnson County Sheriff. No other changes since the first reading.
Any questions or discussion for our sheriff? Not, I'm prepared to take a motion.
I move to approve, are we doing, how far?
I would say let's do 1001, 105 first.
Move to approve 1001, 0105, and 1001, 0155 as submitted as approved on first reading.
No, did you take 2 funds there or 1?
I thought you said.
Yeah, but I believe there were changes to the crisis intervention, wasn't there?
Everything was done at first reading.
Okay, so there's nothing,
There was no resubmissions for second reading, so they could go down to Fund 1175.
well, there you go. Just if you would like to redo
Okay.
that.
Adding to the motion I just made, 1155 extradition, 1156 firearms training, 1192 Johnson County Sheriff's sex offender fee, 1233-0124 led to correctional rehab facility jail, 1010Z01-0124. And do we county misdemeanor,
Misdemeanor.
misdemeanor, whatever. 1175.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Deere. second by Mr. Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next up is the council budget, and that is Fund 1157-135 and Fund 1217-0135. And then 1001-135, 1233-135, 2508-135, and 2509-135. I believe there were some revisions at first reading to increase the professional services line item. So the motion here, I would believe, would be to, and there's no one has any other changes or discussion, questions? So when anyone's prepared for a motion.
Move to approve 1157-135 as approved on first reading. And then, are we doing the ones that we zero, that for advertising, do we do those too?
Yes, all of those can be as approved on first reading.
Okay, all right, then 1217-135, 1001-135, 1233-135, 2508, and 2509-135 as approved on first reading.
A motion on the floor by Mr. Mallers,
Second.
second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay, 4618, the bond. Anybody?
Nothing new to add.
Pardon?
Nothing new as presented.
I know, it's going to be as presented. So Commissioner West stated that 4618 for the bond would be as requested or as presented on first reading. So any questions, discussion?
Move to approve 4618 as approved on first reading. Second.
We have a first by Mr. Dittmers, a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Passes. 1233, lit, correction/rehab. Adam, I don't know who should say anything. It's basically approved, there's no changes since first reading. There was some discussion and some things went on moving some funds around, I think, but no changes since first reading.
Move to approve as approved on first reading.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Dittmers, a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor say aye.
It was Mr.
Opposed?
It was Mr. Mallers.
Mallers, I'm sorry.
John's a John.
Yeah, Amy got the right, not the name.
Amy knew what you meant.
Okay.
We have to do part-time, remember? We have to do some for part-time.
Is that what's next? Part-time?
Well, did we do 1233?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were a couple of part-times that we needed to add, right?
Yes, you will need to add the veterans part-time, his request was $20 an hour.
Do we have a fund number for that yet?
He. So 1001-0120.
And referring back to the coroner, this basically, if we approve this, gives him the authority to pay anywhere between that scale, correct?
No, to 135. The request on part-time was 135.
Yeah, 135 per call, that's his request.
Yeah, from the overall amount that we reduced back to what it originally was, correct?
Yeah, you reduce the appropriation.
Right,
But you could do the
right,
full.
right. I just wanted to point that out. This is what we were referring to earlier.
Okay, we reduced the appropriation, but the part-time rate increased to is being requested to be increased to 135.
Doesn't mean he has to, from what I
It's up to you,
understand. But
right.
yes, that's the request.
So, as a motion is made, if one were not to want to approve one of the changes, there would have to be two different motions to approve the part-times as submitted with the following changes to increase the 135 to 135 for the coroner. Correct?
So his request is 135, so if, typically you do it all together. If you want to take that as a separate vote, you could.
But it's submitted as 135, so it can
Correct.
be as submitted, okay?
As approved in first reading, and then you would just add veterans part-time of $20 an hour.
Okay.
Would be a motion.
All right, I make a motion to approve, so we can have discussion as submitted on a first reading with the revision or the addition of the veterans part-time line item or amount of $20 an hour.
A motion on the floor by Mr. Deere. And we're only looking at the part-time rates.
Correct.
And you can do all of them, I think you did them all together.
Okay, we did them all together the first reading, didn't we?
Yeah, you did them.
Okay, so we're looking at board per diems that we looked at first reading, specialization pay, special teams, shift differential, and it's where we added the 911, and merit rank pay. At first reading, we discussed these and approved as presented with the exception of the one that was added for, what department was that, Ron?
Veterans.
Veterans.
Yeah.
And then the differential pay that was added for 911, correct?
Yes, but I just noticed I don't have the coroner listed under shift differential.
Yeah, it's under the first, it's under the first one.
So what do we need to do?
Well, the coroner proposed, 2025 rate was the 135 as submitted,
That's the on-call.
right?
I'm just saying he also has a shift diff line item, and I don't have him listed under here.
So recognizing that in this meeting will allow you to
Correct.
put it on there and include it in our vote, right?
That's my motion.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Deere, second by Mr. Myers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any further discussion of any items before we break for lunch and convene back at 1 o'clock for, and that, I can't seem to think of that word, fire departments.
If you're done with this meeting,
Non-binding.
you need to adjourn.
I'm sorry?
If you're done with this meeting, you can adjourn.
Yes, I was just making sure nobody else had anything. So I'll be prepared to take a motion for the adjournment of the second reading of budgets for 2025.
I'll make the first motion to adjourn the second reading, 2020-25.
Second, anybody?
Yeah, second.
This first by Melinda, second by Mr. Dittmers, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we will reconvene at 1.
Well done.